Hello students, today we will study amino acids, proteins and carbohydrates. The main objectives of today's lecture are to study the structure of amino acids, to study the different classes of amino acids, to gain the knowledge of the importance of amino acids, to understand the concept of proteins, to study the different levels of protein organization, to study different classes of proteins, to study properties of proteins, and to get an insight about carbohydrates and their different classes. And lastly, we will study the importance of carbohydrates. Now, first the amino acids. Amino acids are a group of important organic compounds containing two functional groups, that's amino and carboxylic, along with the side chain specific to each amino acid. The amino group is basic, while the carboxylic group is acidic in nature. The key elements of amino acid are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. Each amino acid is assigned a 3-letter or 1-letter symbol. More than 300 amino acids occur naturally, but 20 of them are especially important. These are called standard amino acids. These include glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, methionine, serine, cysteine, threonine, proline, asparagine and glutamine. Phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, histidine, lysine, arginine, aspartame and glutamate. Now we will study general structure of amino acids. Amino acids are termed as alpha amino acids if both the carboxylic and amino groups are attached to the same carbon atom, as shown where R represents a side chain specific to each amino acid. The carbon atom next to the carboxylic group is called the alpha carbon. The alpha carbon atom binds to a side chain represented by R, which is different for each of the 20 amino acids found in proteins. The amino acids mostly exist in ionized form in the biological system. In alpha amino acids, both the amino group and the carboxyl group are attached to the same carbon atom. Now we will study the classification of amino acids. There are different ways of classifying amino acids based on the structure and chemical nature, nutritional requirement, metabolic fate, etc. Classification of amino acids based on structure. A comprehensive classification of amino acids is based on their structure and chemical nature. All are aliphatic amino acids. They differ with respect to the group attached to the alpha carbon. The 20 amino acids found in proteins are divided into 7 distinct groups. Number 1, amino acids with aliphatic side chains. These are monoamino monocarboxylic acids. This group consists of the most simple amino acids like glycine, alanine, valine, leucine and isoleucine. The last 3 amino acids contain branched aliphatic side chains, hence they are also referred to as branched chain amino acids. Hydroxyl group containing amino acids. These amino acids have a polar hydroxyl group on their side chain, for example serine, threonine and tyrosine. Sulfur containing amino acids. Cysteine with sulfhydryl group and methionine with thioether group are the 2 amino acids incorporated during the course of protein synthesis. Cysteine, another important sulfur containing amino acid, is formed by condensation of 2 molecules of cysteine. Acidic amino acids and their amides. Aspartic acid and glutamic acid are dicarboxylic monoamino acids, while asparagine and glutamine are their respective amide derivatives. Basic amino acids. The 3 amino acids lysine, arginine and histidine are dibasic monocarboxylic acids. Aromatic amino acids. These are amino acids which include an aromatic ring. Phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan and histidine are aromatic amino acids. Amino acids. Proline containing pyrrolidine ring is a unique amino acid. It has an amino group instead of amino group found in other amino acids. Okay. Now we will talk about the classification of amino acids based on their polarity. Amino acids are classified into 4 groups on the basis of polarity. The polarity in turn reflects functional role of amino acids in protein structure. Non-polar amino acids. These amino acids are also referred to as hydrophobic. They have no charge on the R group. These include glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, tryptophan, etc. Now, polar amino acids with no charge on R group. These amino acids as such carry no charge on the R group. They however possess groups such as hydroxyl, sulfhydryl and amide and participate in hydrogen bonding of protein structure. The amino acids in this group are serine, threonine, etc. Now, polar amino acids with positive R group. The 3 amino acids lysine, arginine and histidine are included in this group. Now, polar amino acids with negative R group. The dicarboxylic monoamino acids, that is aspartic acid and glutamic acid, are considered in this group. We will now study the nutritional classification of amino acids. Based on the nutritional requirements, amino acids are grouped into following classes. Number 1, essential or indispensable amino acids. The amino acids which cannot be synthesized by the body and therefore need to be supplied through diet are called essential amino acids. They are required for the proper growth and maintenance of the individual. There are 10 essential amino acids including arginine, valine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine and tryptophan. Next, second is non-essential or dispensable amino acids. The body can synthesize about 10 amino acids to meet the biological needs. Hence, they need not to be consumed in the diet. These are glycine, alanine, serine, cysteine, aspartate, aspargine, glutamate, glutamine, tyrosine and proline. Conditional amino acids. Conditional amino acids are usually not essential except in times of illness and stress. They include arginine, cysteine, ornithine, proline and serine. Now we will discuss the classification of amino acids on their metabolic fate. From metabolic point of view, amino acids are divided into 3 groups. First is glycogenic amino acids. These amino acids can serve as precursors for the formation of glucose or glycogen. For example, alanine, aspartate, glycine, etc. Second is ketogenic amino acids. Fat can be synthesized from these amino acids. 2 amino acids, leucine and lysine, are exclusively ketogenic. Number 3, glycogenic or ketogenic amino acids. The 4 amino acids isoleucine, phenylalanine, tryptophan and tyrosine are precursors for the synthesis of glucose as well as fat. We will now discuss the physicochemical properties of amino acids. The amino acids differ in their physicochemical properties which ultimately determine the characteristics of proteins. Most of the amino acids are usually soluble in water and insoluble in organic solvents. Amino acids generally melt at higher temperatures, often above 200 degrees Celsius. Amino acids may be sweet, tasteless or bitter. All the amino acids except glycine possess optical isomers due to the presence of asymmetric alpha carbon atom. If a carbon atom is attached to 4 different groups held by alpha carbon, it is asymmetric and therefore exhibits optical isomerism. Thus, all the amino acids are optically active except glycine. Amino acids contain both acidic as well as basic groups. They can donate a proton or can accept a proton. Hence, amino acids are regarded as ampholytes. Each amino acid has a characteristic pH at which it carries both positive and negative charges and exists as Witcher ions. This is called isoelectric pH or Pi. The Pi value can be calculated by taking the averages of pK values corresponding to the ionizable groups. The existence of different ionic forms of amino acids can be more easily understood by the titration curves. Because amino acids contain ionizable groups, the predominant ionic forms of these molecules in solution depends on the pH. Titration of amino acids illustrates the effect of pH on amino acid structure. Chemical properties of amino acids. The general reactions of amino acids are mostly due to the presence of two functional groups, namely carboxylic group and amino group. Amino acids undergo decarboxylation to produce corresponding amines. The carboxylic group of dicarboxylic amino acids reacts with ammonia to form amide. For example, aspartic acid reacts with ammonia to form asparagine and glutamic acid reacts with ammonia to form glutamine. The alpha amino acids react with ninhydrin to form a purple, blue or pink colored complex called Riemann complex. Ninhydrin reaction is effectively used for the quantitative determination of amino acids and proteins. We will now study the importance of amino acids. Amino acids are at the basis of all life processes, as they are absolutely essential for every metabolic process. A large proportion of our cells, muscles and tissue is made up of amino acids, meaning they carry out many important bodily functions such as giving cells their structure. They are furthermore essential for healing wounds and repairing tissue, especially in the muscles, bones, skin and hair, as well as for the removal of all kinds of waste deposits produced in connection with the metabolism. Among their most important tasks are the optimal transport and storage of all nutrients and are commonly used in fertilizers and food technology. Industrial uses include the production of drugs, biodegradable plastics and chiral catalysts. We will now study proteins. First of all, what are proteins? Proteins are linear, unbranched polymers constructed from 20 standard alpha amino acids joined together via peptide bonds. For this reason, amino acids are called the building blocks of proteins. These polymers contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen atoms. Sulfur atoms are usually present too. Proteins are diverse in size. The mass of single chain proteins is typically 10 to 50 kilodaltons, although proteins as small as 350 dalton and greater than 1000 kilodalton are known to exist. Proteins have several different levels of organization. Every protein in its native state has a unique three-dimensional structure which is referred to as its conformation. The function of protein arises from its conformation. Protein structures can be classified into 4 levels of organization, that's primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. The first level of protein structure is called its primary structure. The primary structure of a protein is simply the linear sequence of its constituent amino acids. Linear sequences are not found in nature because the protein begins to fold as it is produced from messenger RNA. The linking together of amino acids produces peptide chains. A peptide consists of 2 or more amino acids linked by peptide bonds. The linear polymers of amino acids are called polypeptides. The peptide bond is formed between the alpha carboxyl group of one amino acid and the alpha amino group of another. The peptide bond is a planar structure with the two adjacent alpha carbons, a carbonyl oxygen and alpha amino nitrogen and its associated hydrogen atom and the carbonyl carbon all lying in the same plane. The next level of organization is called the secondary structure of protein. The linear sequence of protein begins to fold into regular repeating patterns. The two most important secondary structures of proteins are the alpha helix and the beta sheet. Now, first of all, the alpha helix. The alpha helix is a rigid rod-like structure that forms when a polypeptide chain twists into a helical conformation. The secrescence of alpha helix can be either right-handed or left-handed. Beta pleated sheet or beta structure. Beta pleated sheets form when two or more polypeptide chain segments line up side by side. Each individual segment is referred to as beta strand. Rather than being coiled, each beta strand is fully extended. Now, the next level of organization is called the tertiary structure of the protein. The tertiary arrangement is basically a higher level of protein folding. As the secondary structures become spatially further apart along the polypeptide chain, the polypeptide chains begin to interact with their respective side chains, creating a more complex level of folding. Now, the last level of structure, that is quaternary structure. Quaternary structure refers to the spatial arrangement of subunits within the protein. Subunits are categorized as individual polypeptide sequences that begin with a positively charged amino acid and end with a negatively charged carboxylic acid terminus. We will now study the classification of proteins. Proteins are classified in several ways. First of all, classification of proteins based on their chemical nature and solubility. This is the most comprehensive and popular classification of proteins. It is based on amino acid composition, structure, shape and solubility properties. Proteins are mainly classified into three main groups, that is simple proteins, conjugated proteins and derived proteins. Now first of all, let us discuss simple proteins. They are composed of amino acid residues only. These are further subdivided into different groups like globular proteins and fibrous proteins. Now, conjugated proteins. They consist of a simple protein combined with a non-protein component. The non-protein component is called the prosthetic group. A conjugated protein without its prosthetic group is called an apoprotein. A protein molecule combined with its prosthetic group is referred to as holoprotein. Depending upon the prosthetic group, the conjugate proteins are of several types like nucleoproteins, chromoproteins, lipoproteins, metalloproteins, etc. Now we will study the derived proteins. The derived proteins are of two types, the primary derived proteins and the secondary derived proteins. All primary derived proteins are denatured or coagulated or first hydrolyzed products of proteins. For example, coagulated proteins, metaproteins, etc. Now secondary derived proteins, these are the degraded products of proteins. From the nutritional point of view, proteins are classified into three categories: complete proteins, partially incomplete proteins and incomplete proteins. Complete proteins have all the 10 essential amino acids in the required proportion by the human body to promote good health. For example, egg albumin, milk casein, etc. Now, partially incomplete proteins are partially lacking one or more essential amino acids and hence can promote moderate growth. For example, wheat and rice proteins. Now, incomplete proteins completely lack one or more essential amino acids and hence do not promote growth at all. For example, gelatin, zein, etc. We will now study the physicochemical properties of proteins. Proteins form colloidal solutions instead of true solutions in water. The proteins vary in their molecular weights, which in turn is dependent on the number of amino acid residues. There is a wide variation in a protein shape. It may be globular, oval, fibrous or elongated. The nature of the amino acids determines the pI of the protein. The acidic and basic amino acids strongly influence the pI. At isoelectric pH, the proteins exist as Zwitter ions or dipolar ions. The process of protein precipitation by the addition of neutral salts such as ammonium sulfate or sodium sulfate is known as salting out. This phenomenon is explained on the basis of dehydration of protein molecules by salts. This causes increased protein-protein interaction resulting in molecular aggregation and precipitation. The proteins give several color reactions which are often useful to identify the nature of the amino acids present in them. For example, Biuret reaction, Ninhydrin reaction, xanthoprotic reaction, Millen's reaction, etc. Now, let us discuss the functions of proteins. Because proteins are a highly evolved and diverse class of molecules, they perform endless tasks and functions within both plants and animals. They are important in the biosynthesis of hormones, enzymes and membrane channels and pumps. In animals, proteins can function in the immune system and can be used in the production of energy. In essence, proteins are the currency of life. Proteins are the body's building materials, providing strength and flexibility to the tissues, tendons, ligaments, muscles, organs, bones, nails, hair and skin. Proteins shuttle substances such as oxygen, waste products and nutrients through the blood and into and out of the cells. Because proteins provide 4 calories per gram, they can be used as a fuel or energy. Now, let us study carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the most abundant organic molecules in nature. They are composed of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio of 1:2:1. Chemically, they may be defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones or compounds that can be hydrolyzed to them. Now, we will study the classification of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are often referred to as saccharides. They are broadly classified into following major groups like monosaccharides, disaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Study monosaccharides. They are the simplest group of carbohydrates and are often referred to as simple sugars. The common monosaccharides are glucose, fructose and galactose. They are divided into different categories based on the functional group and the number of carbon atoms. On the basis of functional group, they are classified into aldoses and ketoses. Sugars that contain an aldehyde group are called aldoses, for example, glucose, whereas those sugars that contain a ketone group are called as ketoses, for example, fructose. Based on the number of carbon atoms, the monosaccharides are regarded as trioses, that's containing 3 carbon, for example, glyceraldehyde, tetroses containing 4 carbon, for example, D-erythrose, pentoses containing 5 carbon, for example, D-ribose, hexoses containing 6 carbon, for example, D-glucose, etc. Monosaccharides with 5-membered rings are called furanoses, and those with 6-membered rings are called pyranoses. Now, we will study the structural aspects of monosaccharides. The presence of asymmetric carbon atoms in a compound gives rise to stereoisomerism of that compound. It also confers optical activity to that compound. Now, stereoisomerism is an important character of monosaccharides. Stereoisomers are the compounds that have the same composition and structural formula but differ in their spatial conformation. These include enantiomers, anomers and epimers. Now, first of all, enantiomers, the two stereoisomers that are non-superimposable mirror images of one another are called a pair of enantiomers. D and L sugars are enantiomers. D and L glucose are termed as D and L form depending on the arrangement of hydrogen and hydroxyl groups on the penultimate carbon atom. When the sugar has hydroxyl group on the right side, it is D isomer, and when the hydroxyl group is on the left side, it is L isomer. Now, anomers, the two sugars which differ in the configuration at only carbon 1 in case of aldoses and carbon 2 in ketoses are known as anomers and are represented as alpha and beta sugars. For example, alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. We will now study epimerism. The isomers formed due to variations in the configuration of hydrogen and hydroxyl groups around a single carbon atom in a sugar molecule are called as epimers. Mannose is a 2-epimer of glucose because these two have different configuration only around carbon 2 and galactose is 4-epimer of glucose. About disaccharides, on hydrolysis produce two molecules of the same or different monosaccharides. Disaccharides are commonly found in nature as sucrose, lactose and maltose. They are formed by a condensation reaction where one molecule of water condenses or is released during the joining of two monosaccharides. The type of bond that is formed between the two sugars is called a glycosidic bond. Disaccharides are of two types, that's reducing disaccharides and non-reducing disaccharides. Reducing disaccharides are with free aldehyde or keto group, for example maltose, sucrose, etc. While as non-reducing disaccharides are with no free aldehyde or keto group, for example sucrose, trehalose, etc. Now, oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides contain 3 to 10 monosaccharide molecules which are liberated during hydrolysis, for example maltotriose. Polysaccharides are also called as glycans. They are usually monomers and consist of thousands of repeating glucose units. They can be classified into two separate groups based on their functions, that is structural and storage polysaccharides. Structural polysaccharides provide mechanical stability to cells, organs and organisms. Storage polysaccharides serve as carbohydrate stores that release monosaccharides as required. Polysaccharides are of two types, homopolysaccharides or homoglycans and heteropolysaccharides or heteroglycans. Now, homopolysaccharides, they contain monosaccharide units of a single type. For example, starch, glycogen, inulin, cellulose, etc. Heteropolysaccharides, they possess two or more different types of monosaccharide units or their derivatives. For example, pectin, lignin, etc. One of the two monosaccharides is always either N-acetyl glucosamine or N-acetyl galactosamine. The other is in most cases a uranic acid, usually glucuronic acid. Let us now discuss about the functions of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the most abundant dietary source of energy for all organisms. Glucose is the source of storage of energy. It is stored as glycogen in animals and starch in plants. They are precursors for many organic compounds like fats, amino acids, etc. Carbohydrates are used as flavoring agents and sweeteners and are a source of dietary fiber. Carbohydrates participate in the structure of cell membrane and cellular functions. Structural components of many organisms. These include the fibers of plant, exoskeleton of some insects and the cell wall of microorganisms. This was all about today's lecture. Hope you have understood this. Thank you.